I got Josh Elledge here today. You know, Group Coach Nation, I like Tuesdays. I was just telling Josh this. Tuesdays is the days that I record these things. If you're listening on a Wednesday, sorry, just missed the live. And I get to hang out with people like Josh. So Josh has been featured in so many places, like tons and tons of podcasts and shows like this. But also, what is it, like over 2,500 media mentions? If you go to his website, like some people have that as seen on little banner at the top of their website. Like Josh's goes on for miles. He does PR, he does podcasts, he helps people close high ticket deals. But his superpower is like lead gen, the tools that we all use. He knows how to like make that tool a power tool, not just a boring old wrench in the toolbox. So, Josh, dude, thanks for talking about how to fill up these high ticket masterminds.
You bet, Chris. Thanks so much for having me.
That's super fun. Okay, so let's just like dive right in and get to the really good stuff here. By the way, if you're watching live, as always, you can ask questions. If you're watching later, drop your questions. I'll point you to Josh or somebody on my team. We'll try to get your questions answered because every question's a good one. So, Josh, like, let's just talk. Like, you got a lot of tools you can use at your disposal. You got a big team, but let's talk about like just high ticket lead gen. Why is that different, or why is it the same than like a low ticket funnel offer or something like that?
Yeah, sure. So if we look at the thing that we are offering, and if we are offering a typical Ascension model where there's like some low ticket offer, I think traditional marketing still works okay for that. It's a little bit, it's definitely harder. And we could talk about what's been happening in the minds of consumers, particularly over the past 5 to 10 years that's it's impacted that. But essentially, you have a population that's been experimented upon predominantly by social media. They've been advertised to at a rate never before seen on this planet. So because of that, it's just really tough to connect with people because they've been bombarded with messages from marketers. Essentially, marketers have ruined it for everybody. So now you have a population that's always on guard. Now you multiply that times 10 or 20 or maybe 100. And if you are selling big tickets, so if you are trying to connect with high-level decision makers, successful business owners, folks that are running 6, 7, 8-figure businesses, well, you can't just, you can't shove hey, buy my $7 tripwire product or attend my webinar or read my white paper. They're not going to do it. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one is they get hit up more than anybody. And again, this is my background, my experience in working with media, because media has kind of this same dynamic. Because if you think that your path to becoming a media celebrity is just to blast out press releases, I guess again, it ain't going to happen that way. So same thing is when selling big ticket, you can't treat decision makers like numbers. And so typically advertising to that audience is going to be very problematic. It's just going to be very expensive, very difficult. And you may not ever be able to crack that nut. And so what do? Well, if you want to sell big ticket, I can tell you how big ticket people buy, particularly today. And I believe this has always been the case. But again, especially today, is that it's all about relationships. It's all about, who you know, like straight up networking, leading with genuine authenticity. And if you have a problem with that, like if you can't get out of your own head and just connect with people on a relationship level first, you're going to find that high ticket sales is going to be a little bit challenging for you. So on the converse, if you are an empathic person that genuinely loves other people, you're going to find that high ticket sales is going to be about the easiest thing on the planet for you, because people will naturally want to, naturally resonate with you, and they'll naturally just want to be around with you. So yeah, you're going to have to take your sales hat. If you want to succeed in high ticket sales, you're going to have to take your salesperson hat off, set it on the shelf, and start connecting with people on a personal level.
That's really good advice. If you want to connect to high ticket people, take your sales hat off and put your relationship hat on. Like, that we could stop the interview right now. If everybody just stopped and like went through the rest of their day doing that, that is such a mindset change. But that mindset change really does matter. Josh, and in my experience, and so many folks I've seen go through our Group Coach Nation stuff, like I can only think of a handful of people in our community who have high ticket masterminds who do paid traffic. It's almost always organic outreach and relational connections for these high ticket deals. Yeah. It's not top
and
of
in
funnel.
fact, I would argue, Chris, that you have you have your $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 clients, right? And that persona. And then you have your $500 persona. And I believe that those are two very distinct populations. A $50,000 client is not going to, they're just not going to hang out much with, and I don't want to say this, but I mean, it's, when you're super ridiculously busy, you're just not going to be attracted by the same types of things because generally you're not, trying to figure stuff out. Generally, you're not too worried. You have different pain points. Okay, your pain points as a high-level leader are going to be focused on issues of scale and culture and leadership within your organization. Maybe you're interested in expanding your authority and your reach in different ways. But usually, you have enough domain expertise that you're not going to have the patience to sit through a typical webinar. And in fact, it would feel a little awkward to be in that room with folks that are a little bit newer stage in business. So for example, for me, I don't mind being in those environments if I'm there to bring value and deliver value and share my wisdom and help out in some way, whether that's pro bono or, whatever. I do that all the time. I have a mandate, and most leaders do have a mandate to serve early stage businesses. But generally, I would just say my observation is that those folks are usually not hanging out, feeling like they're in the proper peer group at that point. So you're going to have to, for high ticket stuff, imagine if you have a traditional Ascension model because you're selling some low ticket stuff, cool. You're going to have to find a way to add a fast pass lane that will get people straight to the end where usually they're just going to want to have a personal conversation with you. They're not going to want the one-to-many treatment.
I completely agree. And I'm really glad you kind of called out that there are really two distinct markets, this low tier, high tier market. Here's the unfortunate piece of this. And Josh, I think when we were interviewing for your show, I told this story. I hardly ever tell this story here at Group Coach Nation, but I was trying, before I started all this, I was trying to do low ticket stuff, e-courses, e-books, all of that. I was 100K,
which is wonderful because there's a huge market for that.
There is, but my pattern of like who I am, I'm more of an empath than a really hyper exciting person. But I love helping somebody. So I was in a high ticket mastermind as a student over at ClickFunnels, and 60 or so people at Russell Brunson's headquarters there in Boise. And it was really helpful because those people told me, like, you shouldn't be doing this low ticket thing, ascending to the high ticket offer like we all think Russell Brunson does, because he's got this whole big ascension model. Like starting at the high ticket space, saying, here's my expertise. How can I help you change your life in the next 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever. Putting a group of people together and confirming your offer works, you're selling it, you're profitable, and your content delivery becomes magical. And then all of a sudden you can take all that and do all the low end stuff and serve a different market. But that high end market, they want relationships and they want transformation right now.
Yeah.
And I just want to layer
that's absolutely my observation. Yeah.
Same. I want to layer one more thing onto that. The folks out there, like you guys are listening. If you're in that, like, okay, Chris, I know I'm an expert. I've got bigger business problems, but I just want to add this mastermind thing on. The reason we're inviting Josh to talk about this is because you don't need to think that you have to go make a low end offer. You can just go straight to the relationships you have and build a group. Like, you don't have to go in what you think is a backwards direction. So, well,
yeah.
said.
And yeah, because again, the high ticket clients they're not going to have the patience to go through that typical model. Ascension model does not, I'll just say this very bluntly. Ascension model does not work for high ticket sales. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
The only way that it does, if you are doing massive numbers, like Russ, like you mentioned,
Russell Brunson's doing massive numbers.
That's a long, very arduous, difficult. You have to build a really big operation. It's a long grind. If what you truly want to sell is that big ticket offer, I got to tell you, it is actually, I think, like if someone says, listen, what is the fastest path for me to get to six figures? I would say, what is your specialty? What is your expertise? What do you do better than 99.999% of the people on the planet? And offer that as a service. And guess what? You can get to six figures very, very easily by just being a specialist and finding out who exactly it is that you serve, right? And don't try to compete with commoditized service providers. Instead, like if you are a culture expert for dentists in the, above a certain level and below a certain level and like that certain window, and that's all you do, and that's all you serve, and there's a lead pool of a couple thousand dentist offices out there, and again, you provide a very, very specific solution, creating a very specific transformation. That is exceptionally valuable, particularly if you can tie, your fee to a particular outcome, and not what are the mechanics of what I'm going to do. It's people will pay handsomely for transformation, particularly if you have any kind of guarantees behind that. And so once you know who you serve and the transformation, what it is that you create, it's actually pretty easy to sell. Really, and I say that, just completely out of experience. We have about 170 clients. I help them do the exact same thing. Generally, we work with very high authority consultants, coaches, B2B service providers, and agency owners. And that's, I just take them all through that same path, and I help them solve for their sales. Because again, we'll get into the elements of where revenue comes from today. It's actually quite simple.
And you do that over at Up My Influence, right? Your company.
Yeah. And so
on the screen here, folks, if you're listening in, it's upmyinfluence.com, upmyinfluence.com. So tell us your experience. I mean, you're an agency runner over there. Tell us your experience with this high ticket market. Like, how does it work? What are you guys offering? But also, how are you doing your lead gen over there? Because you're doing the lead gen that you're doing the same thing you're telling your clients to do, right? I mean, you're taking your own medicine.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, totally. And we really, we created what we needed because we suffered the same thing that a lot of other agency owners, consultants, and coaches out there suffer from is a lot of this, right? You have good months and then you have dead zones, and those dead zones suck. I mean, it is so demoralizing to go a month or two with not a lot of sales activity. Like it hurts your ego. It hurts your emotions. Like you start to question your value in the world, and nothing could be further from the truth, because what we learned is that we're historically the first iteration of Up My Influence is that we largely were focused upon media consulting and coaching, and helping our clients turn into media celebrities. So I would go to an event. I've spoke for the Tony Robbins organization. I've spoke at Social Media Marketing World, Podfest, Podcast Movement, FinCon, a bunch of conference, a lot of professional speaking, and I would get good business from that. And then I would get decent business from word of mouth, like a lot of other consultants and coaches. But then summer would come along. All of a sudden, there's a collective nodding of heads out there. The dog days of summer. So what do you do during those dog days of summer? Well, I think a lot of us, the inclination is, well, I just need to get out there and I need to do what I refer to as the CEO hustle, right? Where you're just out there and you're on stage, you're trying to get on more podcasts, trying to get, featured in more places. And look, that's great, but you have to understand that and this is the guy who's been in front of the camera. I've been on TV more than 800 times. I've done media more than 2,500 times. I can tell you that when you are communicating with an audience for the first time, Chris, right now, the folks that are watching us, they love you. They know you, they trust you, they have a relationship with you. The jury's still out on me. They're not sure if I'm worth spending any time with.
Everybody, Josh loves Mystery Science Theater 3000. Okay, so do I. Is that good enough? Like that should just
that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we had that problem, Chris, that we had to solve for. Is like, how do we, the peaks are awesome. We love the peaks. I feel like I'm Donald Trump. We love the peaks, but it's the valleys, right? The valleys stink. And so how do we solve for the valleys? What is the activity that we could do to put me in the room with decision makers? Like, it's wonderful being able to serve a crowd, but I historically, when I go to events, Chris, I generally do way more business in the green room than I do on stage. I'm not a very good salesperson on stage, and I'm okay with not being, let me tell you, just that, kind of the typical salesy stagecraft. I'm just not good at it. It kind of doesn't mesh with my personality anyway. I like to just genuinely give value, serve, have great conversations. So I generally excel in a one-on-one environment where I can just let down the false pretenses and just say, let's find out if there's a way for us to work together. Can I help you? Or can you help me? And let's figure it out. Like, I love that, where I don't have to worry about fancy closing techniques or any of that nonsense. So what we thought is like, okay, let's think about cold outreach, because, and this is, if there's nothing else you remember, to our friend that's watching this right now, you are likely overcomplicating money in your business or sales, or where revenue comes from. Revenue comes from closed sales. Let me know where I lose you. Okay.
You gotta be kidding me. It comes from sales.
All right.
Oh my God.
Hang on. And raise your hand when I start losing you. Okay. So we're all agreed, right? So revenue comes from closed sales. We got to close sales. Okay, closed sales come from sales conversations. So you have to have a number of sales conversations. If we're talking big ticket, it's going to be in person. You are not going to automate big ticket sales. You're just not going to do that. That's not how big ticket sales gets done. So dispense with that. People are not going to spend more than maybe a couple $1,000s unless they get on a call with you. So you may as well just anticipate that, honor that, respect that, and meet people where they are. Understand the buying cycle, the normal the customer journey, is really critical. Okay, so we want to have more sales conversations. More sales conversations are going to come from more relationships. Okay, a high level person is just going to need to get to know you, right? And you want to ultimately have sales conversations, which lead to sales conversions, which leads to revenue. So again, still with me? I haven't lost.
Yeah,
hopefully, okay. So what that means now, assuming you're working with someone smart like Chris, right? Who's helped you make sure that you have a great product. You're creating transformation. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So then we got to have more sales conversations. Where do sales conversations come from? Well, if you're talking to a room of people that don't have budget, it's not going to come from there, right? Go there to serve, go there to do good stuff, go there to maybe connect, maybe some way, to some of those higher ticket clients, but don't try and sell a $20,000 product to a $200 client. It's inappropriate. It's weird. Right. And I see that all the time. Similarly, don't sell a $200 product to a $20,000 client. They're just different audiences. So generally, I don't sell a whole lot to $200 clients. I'm here to help out. I'm here to be good in the world and help you get to that point where maybe you'll become a $20,000 client. And then, there may be some opportunity for us. So we need to increase the number of sales conversations with qualified people. What can you do to increase the number of new relationships with folks at that level? Well, one thing that I learned is that I remember this, was it Jim Rohn that said you're the combined average of the 5 people you hang around with most? And so I learned this in media, is that if you're, let's say on a scale from, and this is not the worth of a soul or anything like this is just like where you are in business, right? And there's seasons of life and stages of business. And if you are at the infant level in business and you want to sell to adolescent stage business owners or adult stage business owners, then you're not really perceived as a peer unless you can do a few things, right? So the way to expand your circle and kind of network up is you have to do that through service. Like, you're just going to need to be more generous than other people. Just entering into a relationship transactionally, it's going to be tough. Right. So if you serve your way up, you can earn time with your dream ideal customers. You're going to need to be more generous. One book I highly recommend all the time, Bob Berg, Go Givers Sell More. You can read the original Go Giver. That's fantastic. This one's a little bit more tactical. His new book coming out, which I'm so excited to read, is the Go Giver's Marriage, or I forget what the exact title is. But I think it's just a brilliant concept where when you truly lead with generosity, you have to trust that when you plant your seeds, you may not necessarily reap your harvest right there, but where you reap your harvest is not necessarily where you plant your seeds, but you have to be planting lots and lots and lots of seeds. That's your job. It's just to be more generous than everybody else and serve your way in. So what we did is that we took our podcast, The Thoughtful Entrepreneur, and I said, okay, this is going to be a little, there's going to be some operational costs. It's definitely going to take my bandwidth and my time, but I'm going to open up my podcast and I'm just going to start interviewing everybody who, fits our qualification for, who would typically make a great customer. And I just started getting the word out there. And I was just like, I'm serve, celebrate other people, make it all about them, a la Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends, Influence People. So it's like, make it all about the other person. And you have to serve authentically. Okay, this is really important, Chris, before we continue on. Whatever your intention is, we all know it. We can feel it. You don't have to say a thing. We know exactly what you want. Okay, no longer can you get away with, got to make some money today. I'm going to close some sales, and then go out and go, hey, everybody, let's talk about, empathy and culture. It's like, no, you're not fooling anybody. We know what you want, right? And consumers have never been more protective. They've never been more skeptical. They've never been more like having their radar up for, what does this person want? So if when you wake up in the morning, your first thought is, who am I going to sell to today? It's going to be really tough. If when you wake up in the morning, your first thought is, what is the impact that I get to have in the world? Who do I get to serve to today? And that is the metric by which you gauge success. Money will be the natural byproduct of that. People will reward you for your heart being in the right place. If it's not in the right place, we just feel something is off, right? And maybe we don't identify it, but it won't be magnetic. I can tell you that. And so you got to do that. So again, what we did is I said, I'm going to serve. And listen, I've been podcasting for a little while. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to invite everybody, and I'm just going to make it all about them. And I'm going to serve with I'm going to put everything on the floor. I'm going to invest into relationships, not into stupid Menlo Park, Facebook headquarters with more and more ads. That's appropriate for some things. It's not appropriate for what we were offering, because we had blown tons of money on Facebook ads. And what a waste of money. What a waste of money when you sell big ticket services.
So you have said, you've dropped so many value bombs here and said so much. You're a great example of this, folks. You know how it is at Group Coach Nation. It's weird, it's creepy, but our job is to pull the curtain back and let you see what actually goes on behind the scenes when we're doing stuff and building these high ticket programs. You guys know that Group Coach Nation sells Mastermind seats. It's what we do. You know that Josh Elledge sells packages that let you bring in lots of leads. That's what the guy does. He has a business. Each of you do too. But what you're watching here right in front of you is a pro who's giving a bazillion times more, just loading it up, than anybody else, because that's how this works. I've said this so many times here, Josh. You can't outgive this thing. If it's the universe, your relationships, your business deals, time with your kids, whatever, your favorite pets, you can't outgive it. It comes back around. I'm not a very religious person. I don't know if karma is real or whatever, but I do know that I have not found the edge, the cliff, the whatever of giving. It always pays off. And let me say this about that. If you go into giving looking for a return, that's not giving.
No.
Giving is when you go in saying, I hope somebody gets something out of this. That's giving. And I'm going to say one more thing about this, because we're committed to showing what goes on behind the curtain here. Josh right now is on my show. Okay. Anybody watching this forever in the future, Josh is on Chris Williams' show at Group Coach Nation. Think about what's going on here. If there's any risk for me in this call right now, it's that some of you will leave my audience with your credit cards and go buy from Josh because he's freaking good at what he does. But that's like having your own show and being able to give to someone else. It's weird, man. I wish there was a formula and a spreadsheet because I am very formulaic, but I know that there's risk of people leaving me in this moment, like there always is. But
no way, Chris. No, it's just like a candle, right? It's like that, you'd think, speaking of like, I've seen this in churches, right? Where they like, they pass the candle along and like, listen, so competition is for losers. It really is. Competition is for losers. And most high level people that I see more competitive kind of tackiness. It's not necessarily early stage business owners, but I would say people that are newer to business. I only see that there. I don't see that a lot for people who are genuine leaders. I just don't feel that vibe in that. So that's one thing that I learned. And this isn't my first 7-figure company, by the way. Like Savings Angel, became a 6-figure a month company by, again, kind of this same principle of just leading with generosity. And the way that I did that was through the media, where I'm like, I'm just going to give you everything I know, everything. And if that resonates with you and you want to spend more time with me, then I'll make it ridiculously easy for you to spend more time with me. But by no means is there any obligation for you to pay me for anything. Because if you're not at that level, if you are at that level, then yes, let's definitely talk, because you don't extend offers that don't have a positive ROI component to it. So if I invest, $10,000, $20,000 in with a coach, and I hire a lot of coaches and consultants, right? I expect I've got one gal that I'm working with right now. She's a masterful quiz designer. And the work that we are doing right now is just so brilliant because it resonates with, my commitment to generosity. And she's like, we're co-creating something amazing together. There's no way I could have done that on my own. In fact, I tried it on my own. It wasn't very good. But that's the kind of thing, right, that you want to do. You want to invest and surround yourself with people that are far better than you at their area of expertise. I don't do what you do, Chris. I do one very specific, very niche-y, nerdy thing. And I'm probably one of the best on the planet at that one very niche-y, nerdy thing.
I love that. I love that. Like, there's so much good there. It's okay, folks, to say that you're awesome at something. And, this is interesting to me. Josh, we were talking about before jumping on the show, like my Tuesdays are full of people who are very advanced experts figuring out if they should be in Group Coach Nation in one of our mastermind seats. Here's the number, like there's 3 common threads with the people in our groups. All right. This is so interesting to me. They're natural givers. That's like a qualifying piece for us. They have to be a natural giver. They have to obviously be an expert in what they do. We don't need them to have an audience. Most of them already have huge audiences, but that's not required. And we actually don't teach them to use their audience for what we do, like get new leads like you do. Here's the thing. All of them question if they're worth the money they want to charge for their own high ticket mastermind seat. They think, I want to charge 10, 20, 30, 100K, whatever it is. They all struggle with feeling worth it. And I love what you just said. Like you're owning the spot. I know I'm one of the best at what I do. And for all of you listening in, like, I promise you, you're really good at this. And there are people asking you and looking up to you, and they just want to get where you are today, and they want to skip all the crap. So help them get there. That's what Josh is doing. That's what I'm doing. That's what so many other experts are doing. Just help them get there. Charge what it's worth and help them succeed, like Josh is doing.
Yeah, and what I find is that consumers, and everyone's a consumer, I find consumers are pretty smart, right? They're pretty savvy. Like, if you're asking me to give you money, I'm not going to be willy-nilly about it. And in fact, I would say that your bigger ticket customers, generally, they're going to work with their intuition a lot more. You're not going to fool them. And so if you're worth it, they'll let you know, and they'll let you know with their credit card numbers. If they don't feel like you're really worth it at that level, something's off, right? So you need to work on that a little bit. And I'll just say this, Chris, because this is really important, is that please don't try to bastardize relationships. Don't try to shortcut the system. I find that unfortunately about 95+% of lead gen companies out there are all about trying to shortcut the system because that's what sells, quite honestly. Desperation sells, and you can make a lot of money doing that. And I've interviewed plenty of people, and I get down and I'll talk with a lot of those lead gen companies afterwards too. I'm like, take me through your process a little bit, now tell me what you were not willing to tell me in front of my audience. And I'll ask them very pointed questions. It all comes down to the same thing. They're just trying to shortcut the system. It generally comes down to spray and pray, where you're just trying to, take a fire hose over a big crowd and say, now who wants more? It's just, it just doesn't resonate real well with most people. Most people don't want to be sold at. They don't want to be treated like a number. They want to be treated like an amazing human being that they are. And so,
Yep. It works on a low ticket audience, but it does not work on a high ticket audience.
It might. Yeah, it's for now, but it's getting more and more and more expensive.
If I were trying to,
what's that?
It's getting tougher with the low ticket audience as well.
Yeah. So if I were trying to skate to where the puck is, I would bet it all on relationships. Can you make it insanely easy? And so to just say, here's my philosophy on low ticket, right? Is the most important thing you can do, right? Because ultimately we want to get to know, like, and trust, but it's going to take a while to get there. Relationships, think about the meaningful relationships that you have in your life right now. Did it happen overnight? Probably not. It took a lot of time and effort. And if you're not willing to do that, I don't know that you should be in business for yourself. If you're not willing to invest time in relationships with people, you can keep doing it. I just think that you're going to continually be frustrated. This is just my opinion, by the way, too. I have my own philosophies and, I believe strongly in them, but I don't think that you can rush relationships. Like if you go on a first date and say, well, sounds great. You want to meet the parents? And it's going to be like, what? Weird. Really? We're just like, at least you had the decency to get coffee together. But, I think most lead gen companies are just, they're not just swiping right. They're like, okay, swipe right. And now let me show you, let's have a sales conversation. You are in my sales system. You're in my sales world. And it's all about this transactional relationship. And so if you've ever been ghosted in sales before, it's very common if you have no relationship there. If you have a genuine relationship with people, generally friends don't ghost friends.
That's a really great point.
Yeah. And so if you can, I've had conversations where it's supposed to be a sales conversation, but we end up geeking out on Star Wars for 20 minutes of the 30-minute conversation. I'm okay with that. Listen, if I lose the battle and, short term, but end up, having a friend for life, I am okay with that because I trust the process that, let's say you're a local realtor, right? If I were a local realtor, my goal would be to build meaningful relationships with 500 centers of influence within my community. And guess what today? Everyone's a center of influence because everybody's got social media and everybody gets asked, who do you know that, you trust as a realtor? Oh man, I even if I haven't worked with Josh, I like Josh. So what we want to do is relationships. So know, like, and trust comes, you have to create a lot of familiarity. So if I get really familiar with who Chris is and who he is as a person, and I get to know his heart, I'm going to inevitably know, like, and trust Chris, right? That's just the natural outcome of how the evolution of relationships work. So in order for me to get familiarity with Chris, I need to have a lot of proximity. Proximity leads to familiarity. Familiarity leads to know, like, and trust. So you have to make it insanely easy for people to want to spend time with you. So I would say right now, one of the best things you could do, live video is really impactful. It's about the most impactful digital platform that you can use to connect with people digitally. If you could do in person, awesome, but that's a lot tougher today for a lot of us. Yeah. So make it ridiculous easy. So like, for example, if you Google me, like, you'll learn about me. You're welcome to do that. Just Google my name. If you go to Up My Influence, one thing you're going to see a lot of is, holy cow, this cat likes short videos. I'm a big fan of short attention span, attention deficit, span, short attention span content. And so lots of short videos everywhere. Like it's very seldom you'll see a video over 10 minutes long on my website anywhere. It's mainly pain point video that addresses that pain point and lets people know, if you have this pain point, that is a problem I can fix. I don't fix this. I don't fix this. I don't fix this, but I do fix this. And I fix this pretty well. So
then I can't think of a better spot to wrap it up. Upmyinfluence.com. Go find out if he fixes your pain point and deal with it.
Yeah, I may or may not. But I do.
You don't fix everybody. And that's cool. You don't want to fix everybody. Like,
no.
You got to do your expertise. I love that.
Yeah. So I've got a free masterclass. You don't have to pay me anything. You don't need to buy anything from me. If it's certainly, if I don't resonate with you, I do admit I am a little bit of an acquired taste. So some people resonate with, my level of energy. Some people are like, whew, yep, nope, it's a bit much. And that's totally fine. That's totally fine.
Josh Elledge has energy? I didn't experience that at all today. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Josh. So you'll see, like when you go to the website, there is a free masterclass. If you're rocking it in business and you're B2B, I'm always looking for great guests for the Thoughtful Entrepreneur. It's a little bit of a wait, but I would love to celebrate you in front of our audience. We have about 130,000 on social, typically. So come on over. Would love to feature you and celebrate you to my audience.
That's really cool. That's a really cool offer in so many ways. Both of those are. All right, folks, it's relationships. If you take anything away from today, you can't outgive this thing. Build the relationships. If you hate building relationships and you just want to get out of being an entrepreneur. If you like building relationships and you can give, you're going to be fine. Just do it in a strategic way. We always say do work, get results. This is good strategy. Josh, again, thank you, sir, for being here, helping us fill up our high-ticket masterminds. Dude, a privilege to see you again.
For sure. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, man. Can't wait till we talk again. I'm sure it won't be too long from now. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day.